Welcome to yet another video of our Unity workshop. In the previous videos, we have seen how post-processing makes our game beautiful. You know what else makes our game beautiful? Unity's particle system. It is a great system that allows us to spawn multiple particles, which could be small images or meshes, to provide a visual effect. They are used to create the effects of fire, smoke, liquid, splatter, anything you can think of. So let's get right into it. By the end of the tutorial, you'll be able to make something like this. We'll start with an empty scene. For this tutorial, I'm using Unity 2021.2 and URP template, but this should work in Unity version 2019.3 or later. We'll first create an empty game object. You can name it anything, but I'm just gonna go ahead and name it particles. Now hit add component and add a particle system. There we go. Now as you can see, there are a lot of properties you can play with to get it working how you want it to. Now we'll just explain a few basic properties, starting with start lifetime. So start lifetime controls the amount of time a particle survives before it is removed. Next up we have start speed, which controls this initial speed in the initial direction of a particle. Similarly, we have start size, which decides the size of the particles at the beginning of the lifetime. Now we call this start size, start lifetime and start speed because you can actually change it over the lifetime of a particle. So these are like the initial values over the lifetime of the particle. Next up, we have gravity modifier. It lets you add gravity to your particles. Now we have an interesting property here called simulation space. Now this controls how the particles are simulated. There are two options, local and world. Local means it is simulated with respect to parent transform, whereas world space means it is simulated in the world space and is not attached to the parent transform. So when you move the particle system around, the particles do not follow you. Next up, we have emission. It controls the rate at which the particles are emitted. Here you can see how it affects the particle system. Next, we have shape. Now this controls the shape from which the particles are emitted, not the shape of the particles, mind that. Now we'll show you in the scene view how the shape actually works. So this here is an hemisphere, right? So when you change it to a donut, this is how it looks, a box. So these are some of the basic shapes available in Unity particle system. We also have a velocity over lifetime property. Now this allows us to set velocity of the particle over its lifetime. Now you can either enter the values manually and see how it changes the particle system in the game view, or you could use random between curves. Now I'm just gonna go and set the curves as per my liking. So as you can see, it makes the particle system look beautiful. Now we also have a speed modifier. It lets us increase the speed, like it kind of multiplies to the overall output of the curves. Now limit velocity over lifetime helps us achieve the effects of dampening and drag. So this speed field determines the maximum speed a particle can have. Now, as you can see, this is the effect of dampening. the particles move with a high velocity initially, but they lower. Now this is what happens when you introduce drag to the particles. This can be used for various effects. Now we have color over lifetime. Before we can see the effects of this property, we need to set up a material for our particles in the renderer property. I'm just gonna go ahead and attach the default particle material that Unity provides us with. There you go. Now I'm gonna go over to color over lifetime and I'm gonna set a gradient. So you can change the color of your particle over its lifetime. You can fade in and out the particles and so on. You can do a lot of cool stuff with this. I'm just gonna set a blue to green gradient and I'm gonna lower the alpha towards the green side so that the particles fade away. Now we also have a property which is color by speed. Now I highly encourage you to go on and play with it. Now we also have a property which is size over lifetime. It lets you control the size of your particle over its lifetime. You can have curves or random between two constants. As you can see, I'm working on a curve. I'm going to set it very high midway and it should be low at the end so that the particles kind of fade out as lifetime ends. And we also have size by speed. I encourage you to play with it on your own. We cannot cover everything in our tutorial. Now that covers most of the basic parts of Unity's particle systems, and we cannot really go over every small thing because that will just make the video really long and hard to watch, right? So that will be it. Now I'll show you the demo scene that I showed earlier, how I made it. So my demo scene has two particle systems, one to create this noisy trail effect and other to create this circle kind of effect. So these two together make up my demo scene. So here are the properties I set for my noisy trail particle system. So here the main magic happens because of noise and trails. So as you can see, increasing the strength makes it really violent. So you can kind of use it to give some kind of special effects. Now the trails and the noise are the real magic. See what happens when you turn off the noise and turn off the trails, right? So when you turn on trails back, be sure to assign a material to your trail, otherwise it will look something like this. Kind of horrific, isn't it? After we assign material back, it looks beautiful again. So that is it for the noisy particle system. Now we'll go over the circle particle system. So I just made a hollow circle with a glow effect in Photoshop. Now you guys have watched the video on 2D art, so you must be well versed with Photoshop by now, so you can easily make this kind of stuff and use it in your games. Now that will be it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you got to learn something from this video. We'll see you soon in our next video for ReSpawn 2022. Until then, cheers.